Okay, can you join Google Meet? Okay, share your desktop. Yeah, it's recording.
Okay, so let's turn off the slides. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we will be going through the handouts that I promised last week, well actually the week before. Right now, before we begin actually using the handout, I think it is important to understand why we're doing what we're doing and also how we're going to structure so how the labs are structured and how it's going to, hopefully it's going to benefit your understanding, right? So the first goal, right, one of the goals of today is to understand how each of the network functions relate to the task that we're trying to achieve, right? So one of the key ideas of 5G is to break down each particular problem into a module that is specialized into solving that problem, right? Now, you could think of it as a giant problem that we need to solve, right? So we have a device and we need to connect the device so that we can send and transmit data, right? So how can we structure that problem into sub-problems that we need to solve? Okay, so we have various elements that we could use to piece together some method into analyzing the problem. So these are the components that we need to have so that our network actually works. Hopefully this is clear. Right. And I've uploaded those slides on the Moodle, so I hope you can just focus on what I'm saying. So I don't want you to pay too much attention to the slide itself. If you have a question, you can ask also. Right. So another way to view the problem is to break down the problem into sub-boxes, in a sense. Now, you could imagine the telecommunication company would have various people in charge of various tasks. So you can view the 5G problem or the 5G approach as a way of combining similar problems together. And those problems are going to be dealt with for a particular role, right? So for example, we have the radio side, we have the radio engineers. Okay. And for the network side, we have the network engineers. And then for the application side, we have the application developers. So each side has particular problems that they have to deal with. And they view the problems with their own lens. For example, when you're using your, let's say, who likes playing games? Anyone likes playing FPSs? Yeah. Right? When it becomes laggy, you don't care about whether the signal is hitting your your cell phone or your computer. You really just care about how much latency that you're experiencing, right? So you don't care whether it's mobile or Ethernet or Wi-Fi, as long as it gives you a good connection, right?
Yes.
So that's the application side, right? Now, if you have the view from the radio side, you need to worry about the actual physical connection between your devices. Like for example, if you're in a forest versus if you're in a building versus if you're on a plane, you're going to be experiencing different radio profiles, right? For example, the radio waves might be bouncing on the trees. This is having a nice clear path to the radio transceiver, right? So if you get paid to solve that problem, you're not going to care about the latency per se. Your measurement devices will only be telling you, oh, what's the signal to noise ratio, or how strong the signal is, or maybe you're getting interference, or maybe you have multipath interference, right? That's what you're going to care about. So it's unfair to ask an application developer to view the problem from a radio engineer's perspective, right? And it's also unfair to ask the network side to view the problem in the other two lenses, right? So when you're specialized with your task, if you do your task really well, then in theory, the other side should not then be encountering issues due to problems in your domain. So 5G tries to encompass the solution within a layer abstraction, right? Now, these are how you could view the problems, right, and the solutions. So the final sentence is basically what this entire slide is about. So 5G is valuable because it turns a messy end-to-end communication problem into modular systems with clean responsibilities. For example, if you have a large game, you know exactly who to blame, right? Is it a radio issue? Is it a network issue? Or is it an application? Fix your code, right? Or maybe you get outside for a better signal. So by understanding where the problem lies, you can focus your resources to fixing that problem. So we have a set of acronyms, right? You don't need to pay too much attention. That's mostly for when you self-study in the slides. And for today, we're going to be focusing on those network functions and the devices. So the UE is the device, the user device, right? End device, basically. So that's the device you actually have, like your cell phone, your computer, whatever that holds the application. Then you have your GMB, which is basically your transceiver that's a place pointing to the network. And the remaining three are various network functions that you will be involved with later. So we're going to go very quickly into this. I'm going to leave this for when you're actually doing the lab. So you can, if you have a problem or if you're not too sure about what's doing what, you can refer to this. Okay, so you have our radio access, you have our core network. Then you have our control panel and our user plane. So as users, basically, if you have your cell phone and you're sending data, you're mostly going to be seeing the user plane side of things. But as a network engineer, you will be dealing largely with the control plane, right? You also care about the user plane, but mostly for a diagnostic setting. Are my users happy, basically? Right? And then this is because the user plane is where that actually gets that the user plane is where the data actually lies, what actually pushes the data. But the rules and how the data gets routed through the network is set by the control plane. Right? So it's a division of rules. That's the key thing about 5G, division of rules. If you have a problem, the most important thing to do is to find out what the problem is and where the problem lies, right? That helps you to find out how to fix the problem. So we have registration. Registration is the first important thing in 5G because if you're not registered, you can't connect. Right? Right? So that's the first task that we're going to be dealing with. So once you register, then once you ask the registration problem, once you are at the registration problem, we will look to the right, and this PDMU session establishment, this is how you can view that problem in the 5G nodes. Right. This is how registration is set up. And we have this. So this is a diagram that shows you how you can view the registration problem and how the device gets connected to the network and reaches the data network. Right? Okay, so we have here. I would like two volunteers. Who wants to volunteer? Anyone? No one? Maybe I flip a coin. We'll flip a coin and then pick someone. Right. So we have left and right, heads, tails. Right? So let's see whose heads. This is heads and tails, right? Let's see. So we have tails on this side. Right? This side. And now we have, I'm going to split this. So 1, 2, 3 heads and the other 2 are tails. Let's see. So the first 3. And then 1, 2, 3. Anyone want to volunteer? Or should I pick at random? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How about you? Okay. Yeah, so I want you. And I'll just pick what else now? So anyone else? How about the guy in the back? What's your name? For your name? Zephan? Zephan. Yeah. Okay. So I want the 2 of you. So the first person, I want you to read the first box, right? Yeah. And I want you to read the second box, and then I want you to compare the meanings, right? So can you read the first box for me?
Mobile network must let the device reach the network for the wireless access, identify the device, decide whether it can join, get a usable packet connection for it, and move its traffic to external service. This job are separated so that wireless access network, control, and packet transport are all mixed together. Okay,
now I want you to read the bottom one.
In a 5G, the UE reaches the network through the GNB, and then the VNet handles access and registration related control. The SNF manages data session creation, and the UTF forwards user traffic forward toward the data network. So this separation lets 5G radio access control and data forwarding as a distinct problems.
So what's the difference between the two?
The first one is basic network system functionality and process, while the below one is specific 5G.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I would disagree. Tell you why? I know what you mean. It's true that there's a 5G link, but the important thing is the functionality, right? Even if the names have changed, the only thing that's different is what is handling the road. But to call this basic, I would say no. It's just, I would rather say it's general. It's a general format, right? Generally explaining it. But if I were to use the first explanation, someone who with no 5G knowledge would understand, right? But the moment you start throwing in terms and you start adding jargon, you're like, what's going on? I don't understand, right? But you can see that if you can somehow translate this into this, all of a sudden the problem is a lot more clear, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to understand each of the rules. Like, what is the rules? What is the problem that's trying to solve? Then you go from this and then to this, and then all of a sudden it's like you're not even studying 5G anymore, right? You're just studying your network. And that's what I wanted to emphasize, is not to focus too much on literally the 5G component, but to understand the problem that is trying to solve. Okay? Thank you for your assistance. And maybe I should give you a prize. Okay, so as for the first part, right now, we have a few more, right? So I'm going to go through this quicker. And strangely enough, this is easier to present than Adobe. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. Now, so once we dealt with the registration problem and we understand 5G at a high level, then we can ask ourselves what we want to achieve, right? So do we just focus on connecting to the 5G network? We don't care too much about how the data is traveling. Focus first on the connection, right? Then once you focus on the connection, then you move to the next step, and then the next step. So you do it in pieces. If you try to do everything in one go, you will eventually get overwhelmed. So one of the first things to do is to find out the rules only for the task that you want to do. You could ignore the remaining network functions if it does not deal with your problem, right? That's one of the important things about 5G is that since each network function deals with a particular set of problems, focus on the network functions that are related to the problem that you're trying to solve. That way, you will have less information to deal with, right?
Yeah, but how many turns do you remember? Like this? Your lowest. Like this. Do anyone know?
User flag function.
What?
User flag function.
Yeah. Like this.
Session management function.
Okay, good.
Self-management function.
Okay. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor, do you remember it? No, I know it's difficult, but just don't be afraid of it. Yeah, I know you probably not remember. Like
Yeah, so
user panel function.
yeah, so we focus on the set of functions that we deal with. So once you keep dealing with this function, eventually you will remember through repetition, right?
Well, I trying to say that you use this for a few times and you will remember. But there are too many. Yeah, too many.
It's kind of like learning a new language, right? You didn't learn the whole dictionary in one day, right? You only learn the words that you needed to use at first. You're hungry, you say food, 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 food. Eventually, food sticks in your head. Then you learn something else. It's like necessity, right? You mustn't forget that necessity is one of the strongest drivers. You need something, eventually you learn it, whether you want to or not. So, what's the name? Right. Now, this is another problem, right? What must happen for a mobile device to get usable network service, right? These are the steps that must, alright, these are the things that must be known, or you must ask, or they must have information about, right? So once you know what you need, then you can find a network function that deals with that particular task, right? You can think of it this way. If you need to send a package, do you know the address? Do you know the path? Do you know the protocol that you need to use? For example, just as examples, right? If the problem is a bit confusing, you could try to use a different, maybe something that's more familiar to understanding the problem. Like, so maybe not 5G, maybe you can ask like, maybe just of your friend, right? If you want to get your friend to a particular location, what do you need to do? How do you need to direct them? Is there money? Does your friend have enough money to actually get to that point? So the way you reason those real world problems is very similar to how you can reason these network issues. Right? It's the same skills. The only difference is that the language and the rules change. Right? So I already, is that a someone? Oh. Yeah, I think it's pretty similar. Something seems yeah. Well, I think I downloaded this slide twice. Okay, so I didn't finish this one. Now, I would like you, after you go through the slides, I'd like you to ask those questions and then try to answer them. Right? This is not for marks, but if you want to improve your understanding, you can go through those questions and then, well, maybe, who knows, maybe they might show up in the midterm, because why make an entirely new question when you can find questions that you already see, right? So, right, and then we have a summary. This is P1. But I think I did not. Give me a second. I need to download. Find this one. And download this. So I thought anyway. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to focus on only a few slides because we have about, class ends at around 4:10, right? So we only have about 20 to 30 minutes. Around 30 minutes left. Okay, so this is another question that you need to ask about device connection. Right? So what must happen for a mobile device to get usable service? So now, after you connect, now you worry about the service quality, right? This is what you must have. And then you ask yourself, what network functions are responsible for this task? Okay? So here we break it down. We break down the problem into 5G tools. Okay? So the remaining content is largely for your benefit when you're self-studying. Right? I just wanted you to focus on this particular page. This here, this is very important. I want you to focus on this. Right? And then after we know this, we can start breaking down the problems. And then we could understand how we could view the problem. Right? So we have, in addition to the region, we also have the boundary, the interface layer. Right? So between the radio layer and the core network, there's an interface layer here. And between the core network and the application is also an interface layer here, right? So it's not only important to understand how the problem is dealt inside the boundary, we need to understand how the information can get from one region to the next. So there are various network functions that are in charge of those tasks. And so depending on the problem that we want to solve, we have to refer to the network function. So here we have the problem class, and then we have the component that's in charge of that particular problem. So for example, we have trust. So if we are focusing on trust, on authentication basically, where do we go? Go to the right. How about policies? Right? Control policies. Right, service discovery. Like this. And again, these are various questions that I would like you to look at for maybe next week and the following week. Very likely the midterm will be based on questions that come from this set of slides and your handouts. Okay. I also want you, when you're going through the slides, if you spot any mistakes or anything that doesn't make any sense, please tell me, right? Because I did go through it and it seems fine, but you never know, okay? Yes, so this is for the second one. Now, this slide is a slide that we will be focusing today. Right, because this slide is the companion to the lab that we will be doing today. So we talked about the registration and also about service, right? Okay, so after we register, we want to actually transmit data, right? And then now we need to, what problem is this one solving? Sorry. So let's see. Still at the high level view. Okay, so I think now I know what I do. It's now, so this is 3, 2, so I double 2 and I skip. I don't really get why I'm missing this. Okay. Double discipline. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to open this. Alright. Now. So for the lab, we'll just be focusing on the basics, which is I think everyone already installed free 5GC on a virtual machine, right? And then now we also need to create a user UE, right? So we will be using a UE sim, UE RAN sim, right? UE RAN sim. And to do that, there are instructions on the free 5GC side, but also the handout will point you to the right direction. Okay. It will not take very long for you to set, or actually it might take some time to set up the simulator. Right? It took maybe about 15 minutes. So I think even if you don't finish today, you can just do this on your own time for next week. Okay. I think it's best to do this when you're in a calm state of mind, right? Not like rushing or anything, right? But I would want you all to at least finish the lab, and in case you have any issues, please send us a note over Moodle, okay? I will go through the lab, and then I will hand it off to you. Is that clear? Okay. So this is a mapping of how the lab is structured. So we have a service requester, and we also have the access side. We have the managed call, and then we have our destination side. So the destination side is basically the internet right nowadays. So it's structured in this way. You go from the URAN SIM, and the URAN SIM UE, then the URAN SIM G and B, and then a free 5GC, and then the data product. Okay. And afterwards, we will go through now we'll go through the various stages of setting up the lab, right? Now, once you start setting up the lab, you go through the instructions, and then sometimes you will notice, okay, it doesn't be the result is not exactly what the material says it should be, right? That will happen. The important thing is to understand why it deviates from what you're supposed to get, and how do you fix it. Because during setting up the lab, I noticed there were a few inconsistencies in what the lab was saying and what I needed to do. Sometimes that's because when you set up your environment, you don't set the environment as the main source. So you may have some differences in your configuration file, for example. Right? Who used the test? Let me test. Did someone use the quick setup method to set up the free 5GC? There was a script that you could download and it would just set up everything for you. No, you did it by hand, like you did every step manually.
we're using the
Oh, okay. Right. So in case you need to set up the free 5GC again, you can use the script. You just run the script on a fresh Linux distribution, whatever they specify, and it will set up everything for you. That will work too. Right? Now, we will go to the actual handouts. So, but before I go through the handouts, is anything unclear? I think the main thing everyone should focus on is you need to complete the handout, right? But what I would hope is that while completing the handout, the various parts in the various slides will start to make more sense. So, the material for the handout can also be found from the free 5GC site. So in case you need more details on how to set up the environments and stuff, you can refer to that resource. I think the resource is also in the slide, the handout. Okay, so we start out first. So the lab is structured like this. So we start out with the setup, right? So we set up the various components in isolation, right? Then we change the configurations so that they can talk to one another. After we set the configuration so that they can talk to one another, we then activate each of the components so that they start to run. And as you're running, you're going to be seeing a lot of logs, a lot of messages, and you're going to be seeing a lot of things that might overwhelm you at first. That's normal, right? Then, after you reach that stage, you should be able to begin to analyze the data that's passing through the network. Okay, so that is the last step. After you set up everything, and then now you can transmit data from your virtual machine to Google. You can then do like a packet trace, or you can use Wireshark, or you can use a TCP dump to understand how the packets are moving. What I will challenge you to do is, after you get it to work, do the wrong configuration, right? Do the wrong configuration and see what errors happen, right? It sounds counterproductive, but once you know it works, then you can break it and understand what will happen in case something is configured wrongly. According to the documentation, most of the problems for the free 5GC happens because of an incorrect configuration. So it's useful to know what logs you need to consult when you have those issues. Usually you would be able to tell because it will be in red, right? Yeah. So once you see those errors, you can use some other resource to find out what you need to change. Okay. Now, as I've explained, the labs are structured. You can also go to Moodle and you can download the lab and you can start following it. Okay, so from now on, I would like everyone to begin to go for a lab and to try to get the components to work. And if you need help, I'll be right here and then you can ask me questions.
Okay, so we have a 30-minute step. But it's possible to work with, two different computers.
Yeah, it's fine. As long as they can talk to one another. It's easier to do it on a virtual machine because you don't have like firewall issues and other things that might, interfere. But it's perfectly fine to, sounds perfectly reasonable to use two separate computers as long as you can ensure the packets are not being blocked by some firewall or some issue, something that's blocking the packet.
The two computers to be in the same domain.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, they need to be in the same network, the same local network. Not necessarily in the same domain. They just need to be on the same network. Right? Because in configuring the free 5GC virtual machine, you give it one domain, and then the UE RAN SIM has a different domain. So already you can see the two separate domains there. Right? So if you want to challenge yourself, maybe you can try to communicate from your laptop to his laptop, right? Use an actual physical switch. I can show you how to do that. You can do it one of two ways. If you have a USB Ethernet device, you can plug your USB to Ethernet converter, and then you could connect that to the virtual machine. Right? So then that way it's a direct path outside the virtual machine. You can have your switch, right? And then you can connect to obviously the other computer will have a similar setup, right? The second way is to use a bridge network. So there's a setting in VirtualBox which allows you to bridge the connection, so it will share the wireless connection or different connection. You'll actually see it on the same network. So it will be visible to networks or computers outside of the computer, right? That's another way to do it. There are probably other ways, but I think those two ways are the simplest ways that you can try, right? We will use a similar method when we are working on mininet, right? So the structure for now is we're going to do about 2 to 3 labs for the free 5GC, and then that's the basic labs, right? And then after those labs, we're going to also do the mininet labs, at least one mininet lab for like the basics, and then you're going to try to connect the two, right? So the free 5GC will be like the core network. You have your simulator to generate the devices, and the radio network side, right? And then you're going to have your mininet 2 function more as the destination network. So you could also have it like one person has his set up, another person has his set up, and then you can have mininet in between to bridge them.
Well, you may access to the Wi-Fi Federal 2, so you will be able to find the others IP. You
Okay.
need this?
Yes, we may need this.
You know what I mean? You can log into the battery to Wi-Fi. So you will be able to find the IP of your Max IP. So you can talk to each others.
These are actually an app you can use on your phone. You can use there's an app. Once it's connected to the network, you can find the IP addresses of different devices on the network. Maybe not as an app, but I think with a program that you can use. So if you want to find out who's connected to the network, you can just use that and then find the IP. So then So did everyone find the handout? Please check the handout. And please download the handout and go through it. I'm not saying you need to finish it today. And I would like you to at least start it. Unless if you have already done this. Done this already? Okay, I'm not an expert in this. I'm still in the process of learning myself. So, if you have any questions, I'll take some time to assist. But I will try my best.
Is there up in the class window?
It's in the folder called apps. Unless, let me check. Maybe I did. Okay, yes. I also need to change the PF files because apparently I put the wrong one. Let me see. Let me check. I should do that. Yeah, it's there. But for the PDF files, the other ones, I will need to re-upload them because they are not correct. This one's correct. Yes. This one. Okay, the files are being corrected. And did everyone get the lab? Did you get the lab? Come on. Did you get the lab? I'm going to ask you to do it very easy. Just one click away. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Remember, if your friend has already set up the environment, you will not need to set up the environment yourself. You could simply port the virtual machine and send it as a file from another person. You don't have to, if you have problems setting up the environment, just ask your buddy, right? Repeat or feed or email. I don't know. I'm going to say, hey, everybody. So we have about 8 minutes left. About 8 minutes left, yeah. So please use the 8 minutes wisely. 8 minutes, you will not get this 8 minutes back. Time moves in one direction. If you spot anything red, please tell me. I did go through it, I didn't see anything. How long did you wait?
15 minutes.
Yeah, it takes much longer than 15 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah, it takes quite a while to set up. Do you have your environment set up? Or are both of you using the same computer? Okay, so how about your friend? Does he have an environment? Or
Yeah, they just have friends.
or do you, with your boss, or do you use?
Yeah, his manager. He's giving you
Oh, it sounds like you are more familiar with that than the other two.
probably.
Okay, that's fine. Everyone has a specialties. What to do? I can't do that. I'm not sure if I should. It will take a while. Oh, yeah, I think I'll do that. So what I will do, let me see if I can just give you the environments. You have a flash drive? You have a flash drive? Yeah, it is a large flash drive. I don't know how long it's sitting. If you really need it, you can come in tomorrow. I can give you a virtual machine. Then you can just jump straight into the but yeah, this takes a while, setting up this in 15 minutes. How many CPUs did you use? Only one or two? Four. And what CPU do you have in your computer? i9? Yeah, 24 cores. The cores are not needed. Performance cores and non-performance. Kind of like that. Yeah, so how much memory do you need? 2 gigs? You don't know. if you unsure about something, you just ask. Were you going to give me this flash drive? How much? 16 gigs? This is my laptop. I will use my pencil. Yeah, because the virtual machine is 8 gigs. So if I compress it down, it might be like maybe 40 gigs or something. I'm not sure. Forward here. Maybe based on the material that they have access to. Right, basic questions, the network function, what does the network function do, which ones are in charge of what.
Because of 2 weeks away, we have to share that.
Yeah, so
Here.
the materials in the slides,
This will be, this will be focused on. Midterm.
yeah, but these questions, yeah. Well, I also have this too. I have this.
You need to know how to prepare it because,
Yeah, I also included something this time.
okay.
Like this, I have this. I haven't uploaded it yet, but it's not really. Professor, I have this.
Okay.
This is for the radio part. So you study this. It's not ready yet, but once I finish, this is for studying. should be fine. Okay, so it's after 4:10, so technically the class has ended. And if you want to stay back, that's fine. If you want to leave, you can. And I need to consider my sorry. Slow. Large amounts. So large amount, if you come back tomorrow, or maybe 7 times a week, I will give you 5. Right? So you could try this installation again. Just leave it, let it be. As long as it doesn't say any error, it's actually working. Okay, well, I think the simplest thing is I'll just give you the this. I've never tried the French language. I don't know if depending on what you are in the world, it sets the silver to something. I don't know. The reason why I say is the only thing that's different that I don't know.
Before we recap end up today's class, I think I want to do a recap. Because we only have 2 weeks ahead the midterm. So I need to tell you how to prepare the midterm. I don't want to put you guys in a difficult situation. I want to make, but I still need to evaluate your performance in this class. Alright, so basically the quiz will be around 20?
About 20
quiz. And mostly will comes from the materials prepared by Manel. Okay, that would be for that.
Yes,
so it will be much easier. Okay, so we already concentrate some information you have to remember, and then also some skill. I mean, some terms when you are going to use the 5G code, free 5G code to construct your network. Something you must remember. So we will put this in an exam. Okay, so it will be an online test. Just multi-selection or simple selection.
Yeah, multi-selection. Maybe like cross. I don't match the stuff. Yeah, something like that. Nothing you need to think too hard about. But at the same time, if you don't know, you're probably not going to get it correctly. So it's not going to be difficult. It's mostly knowledge-based. It's like a knowledge-based quiz. Like, for example, what is this network function in charge of? Or maybe it is this problem. Which network functions do you need to solve this problem? Something like that, right?
And week 9, you are going to give a proposal about what are you going to do for your final project. Okay, I think we have been talking about many 5G network application scenario. I know you're still very confused. Yeah, but you can imagine how can you construct a network for the train, even airplane, I mean, in air, you may need to use a satellite, and maybe in battery or in the health care, I mean hospital, something like that. I think you should be able to find some reference, but try to make your project achievable in this class. Because I'm not going to ask you to build a very big system, very complicated system. Just try to express your idea and which can meet the requirement, quality of experience. I mean quality, something like that. Okay, and I think that's all for the midterm. Actually, we have 2 midterm. Week 8, single quiz. Week 9, give a proposal. I think everything is on our Moodle system. It's not difficult to find out. I also make videos, so if you are not clear, you can come to check. You mention on Moodle or watch video. And that's all for today. It's about 4:20.
Yeah. 4:20. So, just to show you that it does work, I ran some earlier tests and I was able to ping Google using this instantated tunnel, right? But for some reason, it's not working now. I think it might have to do with the Google Meet connection. That's the only thing that changed. And if you go here, it says radio link failure detected, right? Error. I don't know why. And then you can see it switched. Maybe because there's some timeout mechanism, it could be. And if I don't use the connection for a certain period of time, it might just drop it or something. And yeah, so this is the first line of knowledge, and you can consult and you find the logs. So you could literally just like Google this, and then you can try to find out what's causing it. But I have a suspicion it could be, it does tell me something about no cells in range or no suitable accepted cell found. So it could just be, maybe it's just like a simulator to simulate some sort of behavior, right? But I need to read more into that. Okay, so this is it for today, right?
Close it.